You're a cheap waitress. Dirty my table. The man's voice boomed across the gala hall. A wine glass shattered, red staining marble floor. The young waitress bowed her head, hands trembling. I'm sorry, sir. The man stood, grabbed her wrist to shove her away. Another hand caught his, firm, calm. That's enough. A deep voice, definitive. The entire room fell silent. A man in a simple gray shirt, old Marine Corps logo on his chest, eyes cold as steel. Who are you to interfere, the rich guest shouted. Someone who risked his life so people like you could stand here and yell. No one dared speak. The waitress looked up, eyes wet with tears. No one knew that in a few hours she would bring the entire financial world to its knees with a single sentence. Lucas Reed, 38 years old, former Marine, single father, working maintenance and part-time service jobs to support his 8-year-old daughter, Sophie. After discharge, he lived quietly. Always avoided confrontation with wealthy people. His past haunted him. Lost teammates in a protection mission where a high-profile target betrayed them. That evening, he'd been called in for overtime, a fundraising gala for Boston's elite, Elena Ward, 30 years old, wearing a server's cap, hair tied low, plain and simple. No one knew she was the heiress to Ward Enterprises Financial Corporation. She'd secretly attended the gala as service staff to test whether her mother's company was truly ethical as advertised. When the wealthy guest humiliated her, Lucas stepped in, had no idea who she really was. She was shocked that a stranger would stand up in a room full of power and say, "That's enough." After the incident, Lucas was thrown out of the gala. Elena ran after him, spoke softly. "Thank you, but you might lose your job because of me." He replied, "My job loss is temporary, but you, don't lose your self-respect." Those words stunned her. The next morning, Elena found him at a car garage. He was fixing a rented water pipe. Sophie sat in the corner drawing, coloring a Marine badge. "Dad says strong people aren't those who fight. They're those who stop others from fighting," the girl said. Elena smiled softly, a child's words wiser than any business school lesson she'd learned. Before leaving, she left a receipt signed Elena W. He didn't know that W stood for Ward, a name the entire city respected, but the encounter stayed with him. There was something about her, the way she'd handled the humiliation with quiet dignity, the way she'd thanked him afterward without making him feel like a hero. Just genuine gratitude. No performance, no agenda. That night, Sophie asked, "Dad, who was that lady?" "Just someone who needed help." She seemed sad, but when you helped her, she smiled. "You made her smile, Dad." Sometimes that's all we can do, kiddo. Make someone smile when they're sad. Will we see her again? I don't know, maybe. Sophie returned to her drawing, the Marine badge, with a heart around it. "What's this?" he asked. "That's you, Dad. You have a warrior heart. That's what Grandma says." He hugged his daughter. "I love you, Sophie. Love you too, Dad. And I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For being brave, even when you're scared." Kids saw things so clearly, without the layers of complexity adults added. The next day, Lucas returned to his maintenance job at an office building. His supervisor pulled him aside. "You caused trouble at that gala." "I stopped someone from being hurt." "The client complained, said you were aggressive." "The client was drunk and attacking a woman half his size." "Still, we're letting you go. Can't afford the liability." Lucas nodded. He'd known this was coming. "I understand. No hard feelings. You're a good worker, but the client pays the bills. And conscience doesn't pay rent." "I get it." He packed his tools, walked out. No anger, just acceptance. This was his life. Standing up meant consequences. But he'd do it again, every single time. Because some things mattered more than paychecks. Like being able to look his daughter in the eye. Like teaching her through actions that doing right was non-negotiable. That evening, he told Sophie they'd have to tighten the budget. She hugged him. "It's okay, Dad. We don't need lots of money. We have each other." "When did you get so smart?" I've always been smart. You just notice more now. He laughed, really laughed. First time in days. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Reed, this is Elena, the waitress from the gala. I heard you lost your job. Can we talk? He hesitated, then answered. About what? About making things right. You stood up for me. Now let me stand up for you. I didn't do it for payback. I know, that's why I want to help. Please let me buy you coffee. Hear me out. Something in her voice. Earnest, vulnerable, not the usual entitled tone he expected from gala guests. All right, coffee, but I'm paying. She laughed. We'll see about that. They met the next morning at a diner. Nothing fancy, worn booths and strong coffee. She arrived in jeans and a sweater. No makeup, hair loose, looking nothing like the composed server from the gala. You look different, he said. So do you. Less tense. I'm usually tense around people with money. Wessam, long story, involves people with power making promises they don't keep. I'm not like that. Everyone says that. Fair point, so let me prove it. How? By being honest. I'm not just a waitress. I work for Ward Enterprises. I was at that gala to see how our clients really behave. And what did you see? Monsters. People who think money gives them the right to treat others like trash. So what will you do about it? Change it or leave? I haven't decided yet. He studied her, saw something real beneath the surface. I believe you. Why? Because you ran after me to apologize. People with power don't usually do that. Maybe I'm not like most people with power. Maybe you're not. They talk for 2 hours about life, loss, hope, the difficulty of being single parents. Wait, she wasn't a parent. Not yet, she said, but I want to be someday. If I ever find someone worth having kids with. You will. You're good people. Kids know that. Your daughter seems to think so. Sophie's a good judge of character. Better than me. I doubt that. You saw through that rich guy in about 3 seconds. That wasn't judgment. That was instinct, military training. Tell me about that. The military. So he did, not the glory parts, the real parts. The fear, the brotherhood, the loss. And she listened. Really listened. Not just waiting for her turn to talk. By the time they left, something had shifted. They weren't strangers anymore. They were people, connecting across different worlds. And that was the beginning of everything. 1 week later, Elena found the small cafe where Lucas had picked up extra shifts, brought a lunchbox for Sophie. I owe you both a thank you. Lucas shook his head. No one owes anyone for doing what's right. They began talking more. She was curious about his military stories. He told her about desert nights listening to radio static and thinking about his daughter. One day, heavy rain fell. The cafe lost power. She helped him clean tables. They sat together by candlelight. She asked, "Do you ever regret leaving the Marines?" "No, I only regret not being able to save everyone." He spoke quietly, eyes distant. The pain of losing teammates made him avoid the world of ambition, something she understood better than anyone. She started bringing Sophie to the garden behind her apartment, playing together, teaching the girl to bake and plant flowers. Lucas watched his daughter laugh. First time in years, he felt life was peaceful. One evening, she forgot her phone, screen lit up. Email with Ward Enterprises logo. He glimpsed it, said nothing. But suspicion grew. The next day, she stammered, "I'm not as lonely as you think." He replied gently, "I don't need to know who you are, just need you to treat my daughter well." She couldn't speak. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Over the following weeks, they grew closer, not romantically yet, but as people who understood loss. She learned about his wife, Sophie's mother, died from complications shortly after childbirth, how he'd struggled alone. "Some nights I think I'm failing her, being just one parent. My father raised me alone after my mother left. He always thought he wasn't enough, but he was everything." "Your father sounds like a good man." "He was, until the company consumed him. He died at his desk, heart attack, working until the end." I'm sorry. Me too. That's why I wanted to see if the company was worth his sacrifice. If we were really helping people or just taking their money. And what did you find? That we'd lost our way. That we'd become exactly what he feared. Greedy, disconnected, cruel. So what will you do? Change it or burn it down trying? He admired her conviction. That's brave. Or stupid. Sometimes they're the same thing. She laughed. He loved her. Real. Unguarded. One Saturday, they took Sophie to the aquarium. The girl ran from tank to tank, excited, asking endless questions. Elena answered patiently, knelt to Sophie's level, treated her like she mattered. Miss E, do you have kids? Sophie asked. No, sweetheart. Why not? I never found the right person to have them with. Oh, well, Dad's a good dad. Maybe you could practice with us? Elena and Lucas both laughed. Kids had no filter. Maybe I could, Elena said warmly. On the drive home, Sophie fell asleep in the back seat. Elena and Lucas talked quietly. She really likes you, he said. I really like her. She's special. She is. Sometimes I worry I'm not giving her enough. Not enough, Mother. Not enough stability. You're giving her love, presence, values. That's more than most kids get. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing her with me. They sat in comfortable silence, something building between them. Unspoken but present. When they reached her apartment building, she hesitated before getting out. Lucas? Yeah? Thank you for that night, for standing up, for seeing me as a person, not as whatever people usually see. What do they usually see? A name, a bank account, a connection, never just me on. Then they're fools. She smiled. Maybe, but you're not. I'm just a guy who tries to do right. You're more than that. You're proof that good people exist. He didn't know what to do, so he just nodded. She got out, waved to sleeping Sophie through the window, walked inside. He watched until she was safe, then drove home. That night, he looked at Sophie's drawings on the refrigerator. One caught his eye. 3 people holding hands. Him, Sophie, and a woman labeled Miss E. Caption, my family. His throat tightened. Sophie was already thinking of Elena as family. Was that okay? Was he ready for that? Was Elena? Too many questions, not enough answers. But one thing he knew. Elena made him feel something he hadn't felt since his wife died. Hope. Hope that life could be more than just surviving, that happiness was still possible, that love could find you even when you weren't looking. Dangerous hope, the kind that could break you if it didn't work out, but maybe worth the risk. The next week, they fell into a routine. Elena would visit the cafe after work, help close up, then they'd walk Sophie home together. Like a family, but without the labels, without the pressure. One evening, Sophie asked Elena to read her bedtime story. Are you sure? Elena asked Lucas. If Sophie wants you to, then yes. So Elena read. A story about a knight and a dragon, Sophie's favorite. Halfway through, the girl fell asleep. Elena closed the book carefully. Lucas stood in the doorway, watching. Something shifting in his chest. This woman, reading to his daughter, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like she belonged here. Thank you, he said when Elena came out. For what? For being here. For caring about her. You didn't have to. I know, but I want to. She's special, Lucas. You both are. So are you. They stood close, not quite touching, but the air between them charged with possibility. I should go, she whispered. Yeah, but neither moved. Elena? Yeah. I'm glad you came to that gala, even though it was awful. I'm glad our paths crossed. Me too. Best terrible night of my life. He smiled. Mine too. She left, but the warmth of her presence lingered. Lucas checked on Sophie. The girl was smiling in her sleep, dreaming of families and aquariums and women named Miss E who read bedtime stories. Life was changing, slowly, carefully, but unmistakably. And for the first time in years, Lucas wasn't afraid of change. He was ready for it. News exploded. Ward Enterprises internal investigation, leaks suspected, heiress appeared at fundraising gala. Lucas watched TV, froze when he saw Elena's image, in CEO attire, surrounded by media. He understood the woman he'd protected was Elena Ward, owner of the company that had hired him for maintenance. That evening, she came to find him, no longer in server uniform, in a black business suit. "I'm sorry I hid this from you, son." He stayed silent, wiped his hands on an oil rag. "I just wanted to live a few days as a normal person." She said, "You don't need to apologize for that." Media swarmed, stories spread. Elena associating with poor ex-Marine. Company stock plummeted. The board demanded she hold a press conference. Deny everything. She refused. "If I have to lie to save the company, I'd rather let people know I value kindness," she said. At the press conference, a reporter asked, "Who is the man who protected you?" She looked straight into the camera. "He once protected this country, and that day he simply did what good people do." Public opinion immediately reversed. People praised Lucas as the unknown soldier. A major investor pulled out, but thousands of small donors supported her company because they believed in the CEO's character. Lucas was invited to join a veteran support program. From there, he could help hundreds of others reintegrate into society. But the backlash intensified. Tabloids published photos, twisted narratives, made up stories about their relationship. Lucas received threats. Someone spray-painted "Gold Digger" on his car. Sophie cried when she saw it. "Why are people so mean, Dad?" "Because they don't understand. They see what they want to see." "But you didn't do anything wrong." "I know, baby, but sometimes doing right makes people angry." "That's stupid." Yes, yes it is. Elena's board called an emergency meeting, demanded her resignation. "Your personal life is damaging the company." "My personal life is exposing who we really are. And apparently we're people who throw good men under the bus to protect profits." "Ms. Ward, be realistic." "I am being realistic. If this company can't survive standing for what's right, it doesn't deserve to survive." "You're being emotional." "I'm being human, something this board forgot how to be." The oldest board member, who'd known her father, spoke up. "Your father would be proud of you." "Would he, might he? Or would he tell me to sacrifice principles for profits like he did?" Silence. "That's what I thought. I'm not my father. I won't make his mistakes." "Then you leave us no choice. We vote to remove you as CEO." "Fine, vote. But know this, I own controlling shares. You can remove me from the office, but you can't remove me from the company. And I will use every legal means to ensure this company changes, with or without your support." The vote was close, but she retained her position by a single vote. That night, exhausted and emotionally drained, she found Lucas on the roof of his apartment building. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes, I did. For you, for Sophie, for every person watching who needs to see that integrity matters. It cost you, board members, investors, reputation. I can rebuild all of that, but I can't rebuild my soul if I compromise it." "That's very noble. That's very necessary. You taught me that. When you stood up that night, you showed me what courage looks like. I just stopped a bully. You stopped me from becoming a coward. That's bigger." They stood together, looking at city lights, millions of stories. There's just one among many. "Elena? Yeah? Thank you for fighting, for not taking the easy way. Thank you for being worth fighting for." "I'm not special. You're the most special person I've met. You see people, really see them. That's rare. So do you. That's why you were testing your company. You wanted to see people, not profit reports. And I saw monsters, people treating service staff like garbage, taking advantage of their power. But you also saw people worth saving, the company, the employees, the mission. Did I, or am I just idealistic?" "Both can be true." She leaned against him. First time they'd been this close. It felt natural. "Right. Lucas? Yeah? I'm scared." "Of what?" of losing you, of this not working, of being too different for this to make sense. We are different, but difference isn't bad, it's just different. My world is board meetings and stock prices. My world is oil changes and playground duty. How do we make that work? The same way anything works. We show up, we try, we don't give up when it gets hard. Is it going to get harder? Probably, but we'll handle it together. Together, she repeated. I like that word. Below, they could see Sophie's school, the garage where he worked, Elena's office building in the distance. Two worlds, intersecting. Maybe that was okay. Maybe they didn't need to be the same, just willing to meet in the middle. After the scandal, Elena left her high-rise office, established Reed Foundation headquarters, named after Lucas, focused on helping military families. Lucas became training advisor. She handled financial operations. Sophie called her Miss E and designed the logo, two hands lifting a soldier's helmet. One day they attended the opening of a new center for unemployed veterans. Standing before the engraved nameplate, she said, "If you hadn't stood up that day, I'd be a coward forever." He replied, "I just did what was right. You turned that right into something good." That afternoon, Sophie asked, "Miss E, are you two getting married?" Elena laughed. "Maybe when your dad lets go of that wrench in his hand." Lucas looked over, eyes soft. The foundation grew rapidly, not just helping veterans find jobs, but providing mental health support, housing assistance, family counseling. One veteran approached Lucas after a group session. "You saved my life, man. I didn't do anything. You gave me hope, showed me people still care. That's everything." The man's name was Marcus, former Army, discharged after injury, had been homeless for 2 years. Now he had an apartment, a job, reconnected with his daughter. "I was ready to give up," Marcus said. "Then I heard about this place, heard about what you did, standing up to that rich guy. Made me think maybe the world wasn't all bad." "It's not all bad," Lucas replied. "Just needs more good people showing up." "You showed up for me, for all of us. Thank you." After Marcus left, Elena found Lucas alone in the office, staring at the wall of photos, veterans they'd helped, families reunited, lives rebuilt. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About my team, the guys I lost, wondering if they'd be proud of this." "They would be. You're doing what you always did, protecting people, just in a different way. It doesn't feel the same. Nothing feels the same after loss. But this is good. This matters. I know. Some days I just miss them. Miss the brotherhood." She put her arm around him. "You're building a new brotherhood. With all these people, it's different, but it's still real." He nodded. She was right. Another told Elena, "Your father would be proud. You're doing what he should have done." "I hope so. I really hope so." The foundation became more than charity. It became community, people helping people, without judgment, without hierarchy, just humans supporting humans. One Saturday, they hosted a family day. Veterans brought their kids, everyone grilling food, playing games, laughing. Sophie organized a drawing contest. Her theme, "What Home Means to You." One child drew a house with many windows, so everyone can see in and out. Another drew two hands holding. Home is people who don't let go. Sophie drew three people under a tree. Home is where you're safe. Elena looked at these drawings, tears in her eyes. This is what matters. This. Not stock, prices, or board votes. This. Lucas put his arm around her. "You built this. You made it real. We built this. Together." That evening, after everyone left, the three of them cleaned up, picking up paper plates, folding tables, simple work, but done together. "I like this," Sophie said. "Like what, honey?" Elena asked. "Being a family, working together. It feels good." "It does feel good," Elena agreed, "and really good." As they finished cleaning, an older veteran approached. His name was Frank, silver hair, kind eyes, walking with a cane. "Lucas, can I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course, Wicta." They walked to the side. Frank spoke quietly. I served with your unit. Different time, same division. Lucas's attention sharpened. You knew my team? I knew of them, heard about what happened, the betrayal, the ambush. Then you know why I left. I know why you think you left, but let me tell you something. What you're doing here, this is what they died for. Not the mission that they went wrong, but this, people taking care of people. Lucas felt emotion tighten his throat. They'd want you here, Frank continued, doing this, not drowning in guilt, not hiding, but living, fully, loudly, making noise in the world. How do you know? Because that's what I'd want. If I died instead of coming home, I'd want my brothers to live big, love hard, make a difference, boss. Frank put his hand on Lucas's shoulder. You're doing good, son. Real good. Be proud of that. After Frank left, Lucas stood alone for a moment, processing, healing, just a little. Elena found him. You okay? Yeah, better than okay. For the first time in years, I think I actually am. Good, because we have something to show you. She led him back inside, where Sophie and a group of veterans had created a memorial wall, photos of fallen soldiers, including Lucas's team, with a plaque underneath. In honor of those who gave everything, may we live worthy of their sacrifice. Lucas read each name, touched each photo, whispered thanks. Who did this? He asked. All of us, Sophie said, because they're part of our family too. Lucas knelt down, hugged his daughter, then stood and pulled Elena close. Thank you, both of you, for seeing this, for making it real. They deserve to be remembered, Elena said, and honored, not just with words, but with action, with lives lived well. That's beautiful. That's truth. Later, after Sophie went to bed, Lucas and Elena sat on the foundation's porch, stars visible despite city lights. Can I tell you something? Elena asked. Always. I've never been this happy, never. Not with all the money, not with all the power, just this, with you and Sophie. This is happiness. Same. After my wife died, I thought that was it. No more happiness, just survival. But you brought life back. We brought it back to each other. Fair point. They kissed, soft, gentle, perfect. Lucas? Yeah. I love you. I love you too. Is this crazy? Us? Given everything? Probably, but the best things usually are. No regrets? Not one, you? Not one. They sat holding hands. Two people from impossible worlds, making it work through choice and commitment. Inside, Sophie's drawings covered the office walls, visual proof of the family they were becoming. Not perfect, but real. And that was better. 1 year later, at the Civil Hero Medal ceremony, Lucas was honored for protecting others regardless of status. On stage, Elena stepped up, first time publicly holding his hand. This man didn't save me because of who I am. He saved me because it was right. The entire audience stood, applauded. After the ceremony, she asked, "Where will you go next?" He smiled. "I've been everywhere, but it seems like home is right here." She replied softly, "Welcome home, soldier." Sophie ran over, hugged both of them. Yellow lights reflected on the old badge in Lucas's hand, where everything began. A voice narrated the ending. Family isn't where you're born, it's where you choose, and choose again every day. They stood together in the foundation garden. Lucas, Elena, Sophie, surrounded by the community they'd built. Veterans talking, children playing, families healing. This was their legacy, not money, not status, but lives changed, hope restored, community rebuilt. You know what I realized? Elena said. What's that? Power isn't about control, it's about service. Real power is helping others rise. Your father would agree. Eventually. I think he knew, at the end, when he died at his desk. I think he knew he'd lost his way. Then you're finding it for both of you. We're finding it. You, me, Sophie, everyone here. Sophie tugged their hands. Come on, they're cutting the cake. They followed her inside, to celebration, to community, to home. That evening, the three of them sat on their apartment balcony, their shared space now, officially moved in together. "Is this real?" Elena whispered. "As real as it gets," Lucas answered. "I keep thinking I'll wake up, back in my sterile office, alone. You won't. This is real. We're real." Sophie, half asleep between them, mumbled, "Stop talking, I'm trying to sleep." They both laughed quietly. "She's right," Lucas said. "Less talking, more being." "More being," Elena agreed. They sat in peaceful silence. Stars above, city below, family between. This was enough, more than enough. Everything. The old Marine badge sat on the mantel inside, next to Sophie's drawing, next to a photo of the three of them at the foundation opening, symbols of their journey, from strangers to family, from isolation to community, from surviving to thriving. And as the city settled into night, three people held each other, knowing they were exactly where they belonged. Home. Not because of location, but because of choice. Daily choice to show up, to love, to stay. That was the real victory, not medals or ceremonies. But this, ordinary moments, made extraordinary by presence and love. Lucas looked at his daughter, at the woman he loved, at the life they'd built, and knew his fallen teammates would be proud. He'd honored their sacrifice, not by dwelling in grief, but by living fully, loving deeply, serving others. That was the truest memorial, a life well lived, in their honor, and he would keep living it every single day, with these two beside him, forever. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe to Strong Dad Stories. We tell the stories that shouldn't be forgotten.